Sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when cameras aren't rolling and the world isn't watching. In a crowded room filled with powerful people and bright lights, where children who have faced the unimaginable gather to be celebrated, one small gesture between a prince and a shy little girl would remind everyone present why genuine human connection matters more than any title or crown. This is the story of how Prince Harry's natural warmth melted away years of carefully built walls around 8-year-old Emma's heart, creating a moment that would change not just her life, but the lives of everyone who witnessed true kindness in action. The October morning air carried a crisp promise of autumn as vehicles began arriving at the prestigious London hotel. Inside, staff members rushed around, making final preparations for the WellChild Awards ceremony, an annual event that celebrated the courage of seriously ill children and the dedication of those who cared for them. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across the elegant ballroom, where round tables draped in white linen awaited their distinguished guests. Emma Morrison sat in the back seat of her mother's car, her small hands fidgeting with the hem of her navy blue dress. At 8 years old, she had already endured more medical procedures than most adults would face in a lifetime. Born with a rare heart condition that required multiple surgeries, Emma had spent countless months in hospital beds, surrounded by beeping machines and the constant worried whispers of doctors and nurses. The experience had made her retreat into herself, finding safety in silence and solitude. "Are you excited, sweetheart?" her mother Sarah asked, glancing at Emma through the rearview mirror. Sarah had applied her makeup carefully that morning, but nothing could hide the perpetual worry lines that had etched themselves around her eyes over the past 8 years. She had fought tirelessly for Emma's medical care, advocating with doctors, insurance companies, and anyone who would listen to ensure her daughter received the best possible treatment. Emma nodded slightly, but didn't speak. Words had become difficult for her over the years, not because she couldn't find them, but because speaking often led to questions about her condition, her treatments, her future. It was easier to remain quiet, to observe the world from her safe distance rather than engage with it directly. She had learned that adults often spoke differently around sick children, their voices taking on a particular tone of forced cheerfulness that made her feel like a fragile thing that might break if handled too roughly. The invitation to the WellChild Awards had arrived 3 months earlier, recognizing Emma's remarkable resilience during her most recent surgery and recovery. Sarah had been overjoyed, seeing it as validation that their struggles had meaning, that Emma's courage hadn't gone unnoticed. For Emma, however, the prospect of being in a room full of strangers, all of whom would know about her condition, felt overwhelming. As they approached the hotel, Emma noticed other families arriving. She saw children in wheelchairs, some connected to portable medical equipment, others walking with a careful gait she recognized from her own post-surgery days. Their parents moved with the same mixture of pride and protectiveness that she saw in her mother's movements. These were families who understood the weight of hope and fear that came with loving a child whose future was uncertain. Dr. Rebecca Chun, Emma's cardiologist, had also been invited to the ceremony. She stood near the registration table, her warm smile greeting colleagues and families alike. Dr. Chun had been with Emma since her first surgery when she was just 2 years old, and she had developed a special fondness for the quiet little girl who drew pictures during their appointments instead of talking about how she felt. She understood that Emma's silence wasn't defiance or sadness, but rather a coping mechanism that had served her well through countless medical challenges. "Emma always surprises me," Dr. Chun had told Sarah during their last appointment. "She processes everything so deeply. I think she understands her condition better than many adults understand theirs. She just experiences it differently than we might expect." The hotel lobby buzzed with quiet conversations as families checked in and received their table assignments. Emma noticed how the other children seemed more comfortable with the attention, some even appearing excited about the day ahead. She wondered what it would feel like to approach new situations with anticipation rather than anxiety, to see a room full of people as potential friends rather than sources of uncomfortable questions. A young volunteer with a bright smile approached them with registration materials. "You must be the Morrison family," she said warmly. "Emma, we're so honored to have you here today. Your story has inspired so many people." Emma pressed closer to her mother's side, offering only a small nod in response. Sarah squeezed her hand reassuringly. "She's a bit shy," Sarah explained, though she knew it was more complex than simple shyness. Emma's reserved nature had developed as protection against the intensity of her medical journey, a way of maintaining some control in situations where she often had very little. As they made their way toward the ballroom, Emma overheard fragments of conversation from other families. Stories of long hospital stays, of treatments that worked and ones that didn't, of small victories celebrated and setbacks overcome. She realized that everyone here carried stories similar to her own, that she wasn't alone in having lived a childhood marked by medical appointments and uncertainty. The ballroom itself was magnificent, with its soaring ceilings and elegant decorations. Round tables were arranged throughout the space, each adorned with fresh flowers and place cards bearing the names of honorees and their families. Emma found their assigned table near the front of the room, where they would have a clear view of the stage where presentations would take place. Other families were already seated at their table, and Emma listened as introductions were made. There was James, a 10-year-old boy who had undergone extensive treatment for a brain tumor, and his grandmother who had cared for him when his parents couldn't take time off work. Sitting across from them was Maria, a teenage girl with cystic fibrosis who had started a blog about her experiences that had gained thousands of followers. Each family carried their own version of the journey that Emma knew so well. As the room continued to fill, Emma noticed an increase in activity near the entrance. Staff members were speaking into headsets, and photographers were positioning themselves strategically around the room. Something important was clearly about to happen, though Emma wasn't sure what. She had read the program materials that mentioned special guests, but the specific details had seemed less important than simply getting through the day without having to speak to too many strangers. Sarah checked her watch and smoothed Emma's hair affectionately. "The ceremony should start soon," she said softly. "Remember, you don't have to do anything except be yourself. Everyone here already knows how special you are." Emma nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced that being herself was enough. She had spent so many years adapting to what others needed from her, being brave for her parents, cooperative for her doctors, understanding when treatments didn't go as planned. The idea of simply being herself felt both liberating and terrifying. The conversations around their table continued, with parents sharing updates on their children's progress and discussing the challenges of navigating medical systems while trying to maintain normal family lives. Emma found herself drawn into these stories despite her usual reluctance to engage. There was something comforting about being around people who understood that normal looked different for families like theirs, that celebrations were measured differently, when every healthy day felt like a gift. Dr. Chun stopped by their table to greet Emma personally. "How are you feeling today?" she asked, settling into the chair beside Emma with the easy familiarity of someone who had been present during many important moments. "Okay," Emma replied quietly, which was actually more than she usually said in public settings. Dr. Chin smiled, recognizing this as significant progress for her typically silent patient. "I'm proud of you for being here," Dr. Chin continued. "I know being around so many new people isn't easy for you, but I think today might surprise you in good ways." Emma considered this possibility as she looked around the room once more. The other children did seem genuinely happy to be there, and their families radiated a warmth that was different from the clinical environment she was accustomed to. Perhaps there was something to be gained from stepping outside her comfortable silence, even if just for one afternoon. The energy in the room shifted as someone made an announcement that the ceremony would begin shortly. Emma felt her mother's hand find hers under the table, a gesture of support that had become second nature to them both. Whatever happened next, she knew she wouldn't face it alone, just as she had never faced any of her medical challenges alone. The love and support that surrounded her had been constant throughout her journey, and today would be no different. As the lights dimmed slightly and attention turned toward the stage, Emma took a deep breath and prepared herself for whatever the ceremony would bring. She had survived far more difficult challenges than an award ceremony, and perhaps it was time to discover whether her courage extended beyond hospital rooms and medical procedures into the broader world that awaited her. The murmur of conversation in the ballroom gradually quieted as the ceremony's host took the stage. Emma watched from her seat as the elegantly dressed woman welcomed everyone and began explaining the significance of the WellChild Awards. The opening remarks spoke of courage, resilience, and the extraordinary strength shown by children and families facing serious health challenges. Emma found herself listening more intently than she had expected, drawn in by stories that echoed her own experiences. As the host continued her introduction, she mentioned that they would be honored by the presence of a very special guest who had been a longtime supporter of WellChild's mission. The anticipation in the room grew palpable. Though Emma remained focused on the small origami crane she had been folding from her napkin, a nervous habit she had developed during long waits in medical offices. The announcement came with a flourish that made the entire room turn toward the main entrance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Royal Highness, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. A wave of excitement rippled through the ballroom as Prince Harry entered, his warm smile immediately visible even from Emma's distance. He wore a smart navy suit and moved with an easy confidence that somehow managed to be both regal and completely approachable. What struck Emma most, even from afar, was how his presence seemed to energize the room without demanding attention for its own sake. Emma had heard of Prince Harry, of course, though she knew him more through her mother's occasional comments about his charitable work than through any detailed knowledge of the royal family. Sarah had always spoken approvingly of his dedication to supporting causes related to children's welfare and mental health, but Emma had never imagined she might actually see him in person. As Prince Harry made his way through the room, stopping to greet families at various tables, Emma noticed something remarkable happening. The formal atmosphere that had characterized the early part of the ceremony began to soften into something more genuine and warm. Children who had seemed nervous or overwhelmed just minutes before were laughing and engaging in animated conversations with the prince. Parents appeared more relaxed, and even the professional staff seemed affected by his natural ease with everyone he met. "He's wonderful with the children," Dr. Chun observed quietly, having returned to sit with Emma's family for this portion of the event. "I've seen him at several of these ceremonies over the years, and he never fails to connect with each child individually. It's quite remarkable." Emma watched as Prince Harry knelt beside a wheelchair-bound girl at a nearby table, listening intently as she showed him something on her tablet. His body language conveyed complete focus and interest, as if nothing else in the room mattered except what this child wanted to share with him. When the girl finished her presentation, he applauded enthusiastically, causing her to beam with pride and her parents to wipe away tears of joy. The pattern repeated itself at each table Prince Harry visited. With a teenage boy recovering from extensive cancer treatments, he engaged in what appeared to be a serious discussion about football, complete with animated gestures and shared laughter. With a young girl who seemed similar in age to Emma, he admired her collection of medical alert bracelets that she had decorated with colorful beads, treating them as precious jewelry rather than necessary medical equipment. Emma found herself studying Prince Harry's interactions more closely than she had intended. She noticed how he positioned himself at the children's eye level whenever possible, how he listened without rushing, and how he seemed genuinely delighted by every story shared with him. There was nothing performative about his attention. It appeared to be as authentic as anything Emma had ever witnessed. "He's coming this way," Sarah whispered, though Emma had already noticed Prince Harry's steady progress toward their section of the ballroom. Her heart began beating faster, not with excitement, but with the familiar anxiety that came whenever she knew she would be expected to interact with someone new, especially someone important. Emma's instinct was to look down at her origami crane, to avoid eye contact that might lead to questions or expectations she wasn't sure she could meet. But something about Prince Harry's approach to the other children made her curious despite her nervousness. He didn't seem to expect anything particular from the children he met. Instead, he appeared genuinely interested in whatever they chose to offer. When Prince Harry reached their table, Emma felt the subtle shift in energy that always accompanied the arrival of someone significant. Her table mates straightened in their chairs, and parents quickly smoothed their children's hair or adjusted their clothing. But Prince Harry seemed completely unaware of the formality his presence might typically inspire. "Good afternoon, everyone," he said warmly, his voice carrying the slight roughness that made him sound more like someone's favorite uncle than a member of the royal family. "One incredible group of young people I have the pleasure of meeting today." He began by greeting James, the 10-year-old boy with a brain tumor, asking about his recovery and listening with genuine interest as James's grandmother explained the progress he had made. Prince Harry's questions were thoughtful and specific, demonstrating that he had actually read the materials about each honoree rather than simply offering generic congratulations. When he turned to Maria, the teenage blogger with cystic fibrosis, Prince Harry's conversation took an unexpected turn. Instead of focusing on her medical condition, he asked about her writing and her hopes for using her platform to help other young people facing similar challenges. Maria, who had seemed somewhat starstruck moments before, found herself speaking passionately about her plans and dreams while Prince Harry nodded encouragingly. Emma realized that her turn was approaching, and she felt the familiar tightness in her chest that came when she knew she would be expected to speak. She glanced at her mother, who offered a reassuring smile, then at Dr. Chun, who nodded almost imperceptibly as if to say that whatever happened would be perfectly acceptable. Prince Harry's attention turned to Emma with the same focused warmth he had shown every other child. Instead of towering over her, he pulled an empty chair closer and sat down, bringing himself to her eye level. Emma noticed that his eyes were kind and patient, without the rushed quality she sometimes sensed in adults who were uncomfortable around children with medical conditions. "You must be Emma," he said softly, his voice carrying none of the formal tone she might have expected. "I've heard some pretty amazing things about you. Your courage during your surgeries has inspired a lot of people." Emma felt her cheeks flush, not with embarrassment, but with surprise. Most adults who mentioned her surgeries did so with a mixture of pity and admiration that made her feel like a tragic figure to be pitied rather than a real person to be known. Prince Harry's comment acknowledged her experiences without defining her by them. "I like your origami crane," he continued, noticing the paper bird Emma had completed during his progress around the room. "That's quite skillful. Did you learn that during your hospital stays?" Emma nodded, finding her voice enough to say, "The nurses taught me. It helps when I have to wait for a long time." "That's brilliant," Prince Harry replied, and Emma could tell he meant it. "I've never learned how to make origami. The most I can manage is a paper airplane, and even those don't fly very well." Despite herself, Emma smiled at this admission. The idea of Prince Harry struggling with paper airplanes somehow made him seem more human, more approachable. She found herself wanting to continue the conversation rather than escape from it. "I could show you how," she offered quietly, surprising herself with her willingness to engage. "It's not as hard as it looks." "Would you really?" Prince Harry's face lit up with genuine delight. "I would absolutely love to learn. Do you think you could teach me right now?" Emma looked around the table, suddenly aware that their conversation had captured the attention of everyone nearby. But instead of the pressure she usually felt when people watched her, she felt a strange sense of excitement. Prince Harry's enthusiasm seemed completely authentic, and his request felt like a genuine desire to learn rather than a polite gesture meant to make her feel special. "Okay," Emma said, reaching for another napkin. "But you have to follow the steps exactly, or it won't work right." Prince Harry moved his chair closer, positioning himself as an attentive student ready to learn from his teacher. "I promise to be a very good student," he said seriously. "I'll follow every instruction carefully." Emma began demonstrating the first folds, her initial nervousness giving way to confidence as she explained each step. Prince Harry followed along, occasionally asking for clarification or requesting that she repeat a particular fold. His questions were respectful and showed that he was genuinely trying to master the technique rather than simply going through the motions. "Like this?" he asked, holding up his partially completed crane for Emma's inspection. Emma studied his work critically, then gently adjusted one of his folds. "Almost. You just need to make sure this part is really crisp, or the wings won't come out right." Prince Harry accepted her correction gracefully, following her guidance until his crane began to take proper shape. Emma found herself relaxing completely for the first time all day, focused entirely on teaching rather than worrying about what others might think of her or expect from her. As they worked together, other conversations around the table resumed, but Emma was only peripherally aware of them. She was discovering something she hadn't expected. Teaching Prince Harry to make origami was actually fun. He was patient with himself when he made mistakes, grateful for her corrections, and genuinely excited about mastering each new step. "I think I'm getting it," Prince Harry said as his crane neared completion. "This is actually quite therapeutic, isn't it? I can see why you found it helpful during your hospital stays." Emma nodded, pleased that he understood the calming aspect of the activity. "It helps you focus on something besides everything else that's happening around you." "Exactly," Prince Harry agreed. "Sometimes we all need something that helps us find a bit of peace in the middle of chaos." Emma realized that Prince Harry had just expressed something she had never been able to articulate about her origami practice. It wasn't just a way to pass time. It was a way to create a small space of control and calm in situations where she otherwise felt helpless. The fact that he understood this so quickly and naturally made her feel truly seen in a way that was both surprising and deeply comforting. As Prince Harry carefully completed his origami crane under Emma's patient instruction, something remarkable was happening around their table. Other families, initially maintaining a respectful distance from the royal interaction, began to lean in with genuine interest. The atmosphere had transformed from formal deference to natural curiosity, as if Prince Harry's willingness to be taught by an 8-year-old had given everyone permission to simply be themselves. "That's absolutely perfect," Emma declared as Prince Harry held up his finished crane. Her voice carried a note of pride that made Sarah's eyes fill with tears. It had been months since Emma had spoken with such confidence and enthusiasm to anyone outside their immediate family and medical team. Prince Harry examined his handiwork with the satisfaction of a student who had mastered a challenging lesson. "I have you to thank for this," he said, carefully placing the crane on the table beside Emma's. "I had no idea I had hidden origami talents. You're an excellent teacher, Emma." The genuine warmth in his praise seemed to unlock something in Emma that had been carefully guarded for years. She found herself sitting straighter, making direct eye contact, and speaking with increasing ease. "My mom says I'm good at explaining things because I have to think about each step really carefully when I'm learning." "Your mom is absolutely right," Prince Harry agreed, glancing at Sarah with an appreciative nod. "Clear thinking and patience are the marks of a great teacher. Have you taught others to make origami?" Emma shook her head. "Just my mom and Dr. Chin one time when she was waiting for test results with me. Most people don't really want to learn. They just say it's nice." Dr. Chin spoke up from her seat across the table. "Emma taught me during one of her longer appointment days. She was incredibly patient, especially when my surgeon hands proved to be less than ideal for delicate folding work." Prince Harry laughed, a sound that seemed to brighten the entire corner of the ballroom. "I can imagine. I suspect our hands are trained for very different kinds of precision work. Emma's clearly superior in this particular skill." Emma felt a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with embarrassment or anxiety. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she was being celebrated not for her bravery in facing medical challenges, but for something she was genuinely good at and enjoyed doing. The distinction felt profoundly important, though she couldn't have explained why. "Would you like to learn how to make other things?" Emma asked, surprising herself with her boldness. "I know how to make flowers and boats and little boxes too." Prince Harry's face lit up with what appeared to be genuine enthusiasm. I would love that, though I suspect I might need quite a bit of practice before I'm ready for advanced techniques. Do you think you could show me the boat? I have a feeling I might understand boats slightly better than birds. Emma actually giggled, at his self-deprecating humor. Sarah felt her breath catch at the sound, so rare and precious that she wanted to capture it somehow and keep it forever. Emma's laughter had been one of the casualties of her medical journey, appearing less and less frequently as treatments became more intensive and her world became more focused on hospitals and recovery. Boats are actually easier than cranes, Emma explained, reaching for another napkin. You just have to remember that water flows downhill, so all the folds have to make sense for floating. Prince Harry looked puzzled, but intrigued. I'm not sure I understand the connection between folding paper and water flowing downhill, but I trust you completely. You're the expert here. As Emma began demonstrating the boat folding technique, Prince Harry proved to be an even more attentive student than before. He asked thoughtful questions about each fold and listened carefully to Emma's explanations of why certain techniques worked better than others. Their conversation attracted the attention of James and Maria, who began sharing their own experiences with creative activities that had helped them during their medical treatments. James revealed that he had learned to juggle during his brain tumor recovery, starting with bean bags provided by a physical therapist and gradually working up to tennis balls. It helped my coordination come back after the surgery, he explained to Prince Harry. Plus, it gave me something to focus on besides being scared about whether I would be the same person afterward. Prince Harry nodded, with understanding that seemed to go deeper than polite interest. That makes perfect sense. It sounds like you found a way to prove to yourself that you were still capable of learning new things and growing stronger. Maria chimed in with her own story about discovering photography during her extended hospital stays. I started taking pictures of weird details around the hospital, she said, like the patterns on the ceiling tiles or the way light came through the windows at different times of day. It made me notice beautiful things I would have missed otherwise. That's remarkable, Prince Harry responded. You turned something that could have felt limiting into an opportunity for artistic discovery. That takes real vision and creativity. Emma listened to these exchanges with growing fascination. She had never heard other children talk about their medical experiences in terms of discoveries and growth rather than simply as things to endure and overcome. The idea that her origami practice might be part of a larger pattern of resilience and creativity had never occurred to her. Emma, Prince Harry said, turning back to her as she put the finishing touches on his paper boat. Do you think your origami has helped you in ways beyond just passing time? Emma considered this question more seriously than she might have before their conversation began. I think it helps me feel like I can make something beautiful even when everything around me feels scary or sad, she said slowly. And it helps me remember that if I follow the steps carefully, things usually turn out the way they're supposed to. The adults around the table fell silent for a moment, struck by the profound wisdom in Emma's simple observation. Prince Harry's expression showed deep respect as he absorbed her words. That might be one of the most insightful things I've heard in a very long time, he said quietly. You've discovered something that many adults spend years trying to learn. The idea that we can create beauty and order even in the midst of difficult circumstances is incredibly powerful. Emma felt a flush of pride that was different from anything she had experienced before. This wasn't the careful praise adults often gave to sick children to make them feel special despite their circumstances. This was recognition of genuine insight and capability, acknowledgement that she had something valuable to offer the world beyond her medical story. Dr. Chun leaned forward, her professional interest clearly piqued by the direction of their conversation. Emma, you've just described one of the most effective coping mechanisms I've seen in my practice. The fact that you discovered it naturally and articulated it so clearly shows remarkable emotional intelligence. Prince Harry nodded in agreement. Dr. Chun is absolutely right. Emma, have you ever considered that you might want to teach other children some of these techniques? I imagine there are many young people who could benefit from your wisdom and skills." The suggestion caught Emma completely off guard. She had never thought of herself as someone who had anything to teach others, let alone other children facing medical challenges. The idea felt both exciting and slightly overwhelming. "I don't know," Emma said honestly. "I've never really thought about it. I just do origami because I like it, and it helps me feel better." Sometimes the best teachers are people who share what they love naturally, without thinking of themselves as experts, Prince Harry observed. "You clearly have a gift for both the technical skills and for understanding how the practice can be emotionally helpful. That combination is quite rare." Sarah, who had been listening to this exchange with growing amazement, finally found her voice. "Emma, do you remember how you felt when you were teaching Prince Harry? Did you enjoy it?" Emma thought about this question carefully. "Yes," she said finally. "It felt good to help someone learn something new. And it felt good to be the one who knew how to do something instead of always being the one who needs help." Prince Harry's expression showed deep understanding. "That's exactly right, Emma. Teaching others can be one of the most empowering experiences we can have. It reminds us that we have valuable knowledge and skills to share, regardless of what challenges we might be facing in other areas of our lives." Emma found herself nodding enthusiastically. The conversation had awakened something in her that felt entirely new and exciting. For the first time, she was thinking about her origami skills not just as a personal coping mechanism, but as something that might actually be helpful to others. "If I did want to teach other kids," Emma said tentatively, "how would that work? Will I have to talk in front of big groups of people?" Prince Harry seemed to sense her underlying anxiety about public speaking. "There are many different ways to teach," he assured her. "You could work with just 1 or 2 children at a time, or you could create instruction videos, or even write illustrated guides. The most important thing is sharing your knowledge in whatever way feels comfortable and authentic to you." Emma's mind began racing with possibilities she had never considered before. The idea of helping other children discover the peace and satisfaction she found in origami felt like a worthy goal, something that could give deeper meaning to her own experiences. At the same time, the prospect of stepping outside her comfortable privacy felt daunting. "I think I might like to try it," Emma said finally, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Maybe I could start small and see what happens." The pride and joy on Sarah's face were unmistakable. Watching her daughter consider possibilities beyond her medical condition, seeing her engage with confidence and enthusiasm, felt like witnessing a miracle she had hardly dared to hope for. The ceremony's formal program resumed as Prince Harry was called to the stage to present awards to several honorees. Emma watched from her seat as he delivered remarks that spoke eloquently about the courage and resilience of the children being recognized. His words carried the weight of genuine understanding rather than rehearsed sentiment, and Emma found herself listening with the focused attention she usually reserved for her most trusted doctors. During his speech, Prince Harry made reference to his own conversations with the young people in the audience, describing how much he had learned from their perspectives and insights. When he mentioned being taught origami by a remarkable young teacher who helped me understand that creating something beautiful can be a powerful way to find peace in difficult moments, Emma felt a jolt of recognition that made her sit up straighter in her chair. "He's talking about you," Maria whispered excitedly from across the table. "Prince Harry is telling everyone about your origami in his speech." Emma felt a mixture of pride and nervousness as she realized that their private conversation had made enough of an impression on Prince Harry that he chose to share it with the entire audience. She noticed people turning to look in her direction, their faces showing curiosity and approval rather than the pity she had grown accustomed to receiving. When the formal presentations concluded, Prince Harry returned to the floor to continue meeting with families. Instead of moving on to other tables, however, he came directly back to Emma, carrying something in his hands that she couldn't quite see. "Emma," he said as he approached, "I have a proposition for you." He revealed a small stack of origami paper in various colors, far superior to the napkins they had been using for their earlier lesson. I took the liberty of asking one of the organizers to help me find proper origami paper. I was hoping you might be willing to continue my education. Emma's eyes widened at the sight of the beautiful paper. The colors were vibrant, and the quality was clearly designed for serious origami work rather than casual experimentation. The gesture showed a level of thoughtfulness that went far beyond what she would have expected from their brief interaction. "Where did you find this?" Emma asked, reaching out to touch the smooth texture of the paper. "I may have sent one of my security officers on a rather urgent mission to locate the nearest art supply store," Prince Harry admitted with a conspiratorial grin. "I told him it was a matter of international diplomatic importance that I learn proper origami technique before the afternoon was over." Emma giggled at the image of serious security personnel searching London shops for origami paper on Prince Harry's behalf. The idea that her teaching had been deemed worthy of such effort felt almost surreal. "What would you like to learn next?" Emma asked, her confidence growing with each positive interaction. "Well," Prince Harry said thoughtfully, "I was wondering if you could teach me something that might be helpful for other children to learn. Something that could be their first introduction to origami if they were interested in trying it." Emma considered this request carefully. She realized that Prince Harry wasn't just asking to learn more origami for himself. He was asking her to think like a teacher and consider what would be most beneficial for other students. The responsibility felt significant and exciting. "I think a butterfly would be good for beginners," Emma decided. "It's pretty when it's finished, but it's not too complicated if you explain it right. And butterflies are nice to think about when you're stuck in a hospital bed because they represent getting better and being free." Prince Harry's expression showed deep appreciation for Emma's reasoning. "That sounds perfect. The symbolism is beautiful, and the skill level sounds appropriate for newcomers. Will you teach me?" As Emma began demonstrating the butterfly fold, she found herself naturally explaining not just the technical steps, but also the emotional significance of each stage. "When you make the first fold, you're creating the body," she said. "That's the strong part that holds everything together, like how we have to be strong even when things are hard." Prince Harry followed her instructions carefully, but Emma noticed that he was paying as much attention to her explanatory technique as he was to the actual folding process. She realized that he was studying her teaching method, perhaps with the genuine intention of sharing what he learned with other children. "When you open up the wings," Emma continued, "you have to be very gentle, because if you rush it or use too much force, the whole butterfly can tear. But if you're patient and careful, the wings come out perfectly." Like recovery, Prince Harry observed quietly. It has to happen at its own pace, and forcing things can sometimes cause more damage than good. Emma nodded enthusiastically, thrilled that he understood the deeper meaning she found in the process. "Exactly. And the best part is that even if you make a mistake or the butterfly doesn't come out exactly perfect, it's still beautiful. Every butterfly is a little bit different." Their conversation had once again drawn the attention of nearby families, but this time Emma barely noticed. She was completely absorbed in sharing something she was passionate about with someone who genuinely appreciated both the technical skill and the emotional wisdom involved in her practice. Dr. Chun, who had been watching this interaction with professional fascination, leaned over to Sarah. "I've never seen Emma so animated and confident," she whispered. "This conversation seems to have unlocked something in her that we haven't seen before." Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears of joy. "She's been different since Prince Harry sat down with us. It's like she suddenly remembers that she's more than just her medical condition. She's a whole person with talents and knowledge worth sharing." As Emma and Prince Harry completed their butterfly project, Emma found herself making a suggestion that surprised her as much as anyone else. "You know," she said tentatively, "if you really think other kids might like to learn this, maybe I could help you teach them sometime. I mean, if you wanted help, and if it wouldn't be too weird for me to be there." Prince Harry's face broke into the warmest smile Emma had seen all day. "Emma, that would be absolutely wonderful. I can't think of anyone I would rather have as a co-teacher. You have such a natural gift for helping others understand both the technical aspects and the emotional benefits of origami." Emma felt a surge of excitement unlike anything she had experienced in years. The idea of working alongside Prince Harry to teach other children felt like an adventure worthy of the kind of person she was discovering she could be. It was a vision of herself that extended far beyond hospital rooms and medical appointments into a future filled with purpose and contribution. "Do you really think kids will want to learn from me?" Emma asked, a trace of her old uncertainty creeping into her voice. Prince Harry's response was immediate and emphatic. "Emma, I think children would be incredibly fortunate to learn from you. You have wisdom that goes far beyond your years, combined with technical skill and natural teaching ability. Most importantly, you understand what it feels like to need something that brings peace and hope during difficult times. That understanding is invaluable." James, who had been listening to their conversation with growing excitement, suddenly spoke up. "I would totally want to learn origami from Emma. She explains things better than most of my teachers at school, and she actually knows what it's like to be in the hospital." Maria nodded enthusiastically in agreement. "Plus, she doesn't talk to us like we're broken or fragile. She just teaches like we're normal kids who happen to have some extra challenges." Emma felt her heart swell at these endorsements from her new friends. The idea that other children facing medical challenges would see her as a regular person with valuable skills to share rather than as another patient to be pitied felt revolutionary. Prince Harry looked around the table at the children who had been drawn into their conversation. "It sounds like we have our first students ready and willing," he said with genuine delight. "Emma, would you be interested in planning a small origami workshop? I could help arrange the logistics, but you would be the primary instructor." Emma looked at her mother, seeking guidance and permission for this unexpected opportunity. Sarah's nod was immediate and encouraging, though Emma could see the mixture of excitement and protective concern in her mother's eyes. "I think I would like to try that," Emma said slowly, her voice growing stronger with each word. "Maybe we could start with just a few kids and see how it goes. And maybe we could make sure Dr. Chun is there too, in case anyone has questions about managing their condition while doing activities." Dr. Chun immediately agreed to participate, recognizing the therapeutic potential of what Emma was proposing. "I think this could be incredibly beneficial for children who are dealing with anxiety or frustration related to their medical treatment," she said. Emma's approach combines mindfulness, fine motor skill development, and emotional processing in a way that could be very healing. Prince Harry pulled out his phone and made a note. "I'm going to speak with the WellChild organizers about setting up a pilot program. Emma, would you be comfortable if we started with maybe 5 or 6 children around your age, all of whom are dealing with various medical challenges?" Emma nodded, though she felt a flutter of nervous excitement at the reality of what she was agreeing to do. "Can I bring some of my origami books to show them different things they could learn to make?" "Absolutely," Prince Harry assured her. "This is your workshop, Emma. You're the expert, and you should feel free to structure it however feels right to you." As their conversation continued, Emma realized that something fundamental had shifted in how she saw herself and her place in the world. For the first time since her medical journey began, she was thinking about herself not as someone who needed help and care, but as someone who had valuable help and care to offer others. The transformation felt both gradual and sudden, as if seeds that had been planted years earlier were finally finding the right conditions to grow. Emma understood that her experiences with illness and recovery had given her insights that could benefit other children, and her natural talents had equipped her to share those insights in meaningful ways. 3 weeks after the WellChild Awards ceremony, Emma stood in a bright activity room at the Children's Hospital where she had spent so many months as a patient. Today, however, she was there in an entirely different capacity. The room had been prepared with small tables and chairs arranged in a comfortable circle, each place setting equipped with colorful origami paper and basic folding tools. Sunlight streamed through large windows, creating an atmosphere that felt hopeful rather than clinical. Emma arrived early with her mother and Dr. Chun, carrying a carefully organized bag filled with her origami books, examples of completed projects, and step-by-step instruction cards she had created herself over the past weeks. The preparation period had been both exciting and nerve-wracking as Emma worked to translate her intuitive understanding of origami techniques into clear, teachable lessons. Prince Harry had been true to his word, working with WellChild organizers to arrange the pilot workshop. He had maintained regular contact with Emma's family, offering encouragement and practical support while being careful not to overshadow Emma's role as the primary instructor. His involvement had given the project credibility and resources, but Emma had quickly realized that the success of the workshop would depend entirely on her ability to connect with the children who came to learn. As the arrival time approached, Emma felt familiar butterflies in her stomach, but they were different from the anxiety she usually experienced in new situations. These nerves carried excitement and anticipation rather than fear and dread. She was nervous because she cared about doing well, not because she was afraid of being judged or found wanting. The first student to arrive was a 7-year-old girl named Lucy, who was recovering from a kidney transplant. Lucy walked slowly, still building back her strength, but her eyes were bright with curiosity as she looked around the room. Emma recognized the careful way Lucy moved and the slight uncertainty in her expression, remembering her own tentative steps during recovery periods. "Hi, Lucy," Emma said warmly, approaching with a genuine smile. "I'm Emma, and I'm going to be teaching origami today. I'm really glad you decided to come." Lucy smiled shyly, but seemed immediately at ease with Emma's natural manner. "My mom said you learned origami when you were in the hospital too," Lucy said. "Is that true?" "It is true," Emma confirmed, settling into a chair at Lucy's eye level. "I started learning when I was about your age, actually. It helped me feel calmer when I had to wait for appointments or when I couldn't sleep very well." Lucy nodded with understanding that only another child who had experienced extended medical treatment could truly appreciate. Sometimes the hospital feels really big and scary, even when everyone is nice. "I know exactly what you mean," Emma replied. "That's one of the reasons I love origami. When you're focused on making something beautiful with your hands, the scary feelings get smaller and quieter." Over the next few minutes, the remaining students arrived. Marcus, age 9, who was managing diabetes and had missed significant school time due to complications. Aisha, age 10, who was in remission from leukemia, but still dealing with fatigue and anxiety. David, age 8, who had undergone multiple surgeries for a spinal condition. And Sophie, age 6, who was the youngest participant and was recovering from a complex heart surgery similar to Emma's own experiences. Prince Harry arrived just as the children were settling into their seats, but he immediately positioned himself as a supportive observer rather than a co-leader. Emma had worried that his presence might distract from her role as teacher, but he had clearly thought through this dynamic carefully. He greeted each child warmly, but briefly, then took a seat slightly apart from the main circle, making it clear that Emma was in charge of the session. Emma began the workshop by sharing her own story in simple, honest terms that the children could relate to without being overwhelmed by medical details. She talked about how origami had helped her feel capable and creative during times when her body wasn't working the way she wanted it to, and how the practice had taught her patience and perseverance that proved useful far beyond paper folding. "Today we're going to learn to make peace cranes," Emma announced, holding up an example of the elegant bird she had perfected over years of practice. In Japanese culture, cranes represent hope and healing. People believe that if you fold 1,000 paper cranes and make a wish, your wish will come true. Sophie raised her hand tentatively. "Do we have to make 1,000 today?" Emma laughed gently. "No, we'll start with just one each. But once you learn how, you can keep making them whenever you want to. Some people like to make one crane every day and think about something good that happened or something they're hoping for." As Emma began demonstrating the initial folds, she discovered that her months of preparation had given her natural confidence in her teaching abilities. She moved around the circle, offering individual guidance and encouragement while maintaining a pace that allowed all the children to follow along successfully. Her explanations were clear and patient, and she seemed to instinctively know when to offer help and when to let students work through challenges independently. Marcus struggled with the precision required for some of the smaller folds due to slight tremors in his hands, a side effect of his medication. Rather than doing the work for him, Emma showed him how to use the edge of the table to create sharper creases and suggested modifications that made the technique more accessible while maintaining the integrity of the final product. "My hands shake sometimes too," Emma told him matter-of-factly. "I learned that if you go a little slower and use tools to help make clean folds, you can still make really beautiful things. Sometimes the cranes that take more patience to make turn out to be the most special ones." Marcus nodded gratefully, his frustration dissolving as he realized that his physical challenges didn't disqualify him from mastering this skill. Emma's matter-of-fact acknowledgement of similar difficulties, combined with practical solutions, helped him approach the task with renewed confidence. Aisha, whose cancer treatment had affected her concentration and memory, worried that she wouldn't be able to remember all the steps. Emma responded by breaking down the process into smaller segments and encouraging Aisha to focus on just one fold at a time rather than trying to hold the entire sequence in her mind simultaneously. "I have trouble remembering long lists of instructions too," Emma shared. "That's why I like origami. Each step only makes sense if you've done the step before it correctly, so the paper kind of reminds you what comes next." This approach proved effective for Aisha, who discovered that the logical progression of folds did indeed provide natural cues for the next step. Her confidence grew as she successfully completed each stage, and she began to see origami as an achievable challenge rather than another area where her medical treatment had created obstacles. David, who had limited mobility in his upper body due to his spinal surgeries, initially worried that origami might be too physically demanding. Emma worked with him to adapt his workspace and folding techniques, showing him how to use his available range of motion effectively while maintaining comfort and proper support. "Every person's hands work a little differently," Emma explained as she helped David find comfortable positions for various folds. "The important thing is finding the way that works best for you. There's no single right way to hold the paper or make the creases." By the midpoint of the session, all 6 children had successfully completed their first origami cranes. The sense of accomplishment in the room was palpable, and Emma felt a deep satisfaction watching each child examine their creation with pride. Prince Harry had observed the entire process with quiet appreciation, occasionally catching Emma's eye to offer an encouraging nod or smile. "Now comes my favorite part," Emma announced. "We're going to talk about what wish or hope we want our crane to carry." The children's responses revealed the depth of their experiences and the resilience they had developed through their medical journeys. Lucy wished for her new kidney to stay healthy so she could play soccer again. Marcus hoped for his diabetes to become easier to manage so he could go on the school camping trip he had missed the previous year. Aisha wished for continued remission and the energy to start taking dance classes again. David's wish was for his back to get strong enough for him to ride his bicycle without pain, while Sophie hoped that her heart would heal completely so her parents would stop looking worried all the time. Emma's own wish, which she shared last, was for the opportunity to teach origami to many more children so they could experience the same sense of peace and accomplishment that had helped her through difficult times. Each child carefully wrote their wish on a small piece of paper that they tucked inside their crane's body, a variation Emma had developed to make the ancient tradition more personal and meaningful for children dealing with serious health challenges. The act of physically placing their hopes inside something they had created themselves seemed to give weight and reality to their aspirations. As the formal instruction portion of the workshop concluded, the children naturally began sharing stories about their medical experiences, their fears, and their hopes for the future. Emma found herself facilitating these conversations with the same natural ease she had shown while teaching the technical aspects of origami. Her own experiences provided a bridge that helped the other children feel understood and less alone in their journeys. Prince Harry approached the group as they were finishing their discussion. "Emma," he said warmly, "that was absolutely brilliant. You're a natural teacher, and more importantly, you've created something truly special here." The children immediately began showing Prince Harry their completed cranes and explaining what they had learned. Emma watched with deep satisfaction as her students took pride in demonstrating their new skills and sharing their insights about how the activity had made them feel. Emma taught us that making something beautiful helps the scared feelings get smaller. Sophie explained to Prince Harry with the earnest wisdom of a 6-year-old who had learned profound lessons about coping with adversity. Prince Harry's response showed his genuine appreciation for the depth of what Emma had accomplished. "That's exactly right, Sophie. Emma has discovered something very important about how we can take care of ourselves during difficult times, and she's generous enough to share that knowledge with others." Dr. Chun, who had observed the entire session from a clinical perspective, was equally impressed with the results. "Emma, you've created something that combines therapeutic benefits with genuine skill building and peer support. This is exactly the kind of intervention that can have lasting positive effects." As the children prepared to leave, each carrying their completed crane and a small packet of origami paper for continued practice at home, Emma realized that the workshop had exceeded even her most optimistic expectations. Not only had she successfully taught origami techniques, but she had created a space where children facing medical challenges could connect with each other and discover their own capabilities. "Will you do another workshop?" Marcus asked eagerly as he prepared to leave. "I want to learn how to make flowers next." Emma looked at Prince Harry and Dr. Chun, both of whom nodded encouragingly. "I think we definitely will," Emma replied with growing confidence. "In fact, I'm already thinking about what we could learn next time." As the room emptied and Emma helped clean up the workspace, she reflected on how dramatically her life had changed since the WellChild Awards ceremony just 3 weeks earlier. The shy, withdrawn girl who had barely spoken to strangers had discovered within herself a confident teacher and mentor who could help other children find strength and hope through creative expression. Sarah, who had watched the entire workshop from the doorway with tears of joy streaming down her face, approached Emma with a hug that conveyed years of worry, transformed into overwhelming pride. "You were absolutely magnificent," she whispered. "I'm so proud of the person you're becoming." Emma hugged her mother back, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for all the support that had brought her to this moment. But more than that, she felt excited about the future in a way that had nothing to do with medical appointments or treatment outcomes. For the first time in her young life, Emma was looking forward not just to getting better, but to all the ways she could help others discover their own strength and beauty along the way. Prince Harry's final words as he prepared to leave seemed to capture exactly what Emma was feeling. Today wasn't just about teaching origami, Emma. It was about showing these children and yourself that your experiences have given you wisdom and compassion that can change lives. That's an extraordinary gift, and I can't wait to see how you continue to share it with the world. As Emma carefully packed away her origami supplies, she was already planning the next workshop, thinking about new techniques to teach and new ways to help children find peace and confidence through creative expression. The scared, silent girl who had attended the awards ceremony had been transformed into a young person with purpose, vision, and the courage to share her gifts with others who needed them most.